So if you're feeling like you missed the boat on your 2024 home ownership goals, think again. There's still literally an entire half year, actually 7 months ahead, that you can still make it happen in 2024. And today we're gonna go over some of the things that you need to do to be financially ready to purchase, whether that's in 2024 or 2025. What's up, guys? I'm Jake. I'm with American Pacific Mortgage, also known as Jake from Home Loans, and I'm here to walk you through what you need to do if you still wanna buy a home in the year 2024. Now, in this video, I'm going to outline some of the essential steps it's going to take for you to be able to purchase. We're going to talk over budgeting, we're going to talk over credit, and we're going to talk over different mortgage options that are going to help you get ready to go in the next 6 months. So as I mentioned, first things first, let's talk about budget. This is one of the most crucial steps, not just saving for a down payment, but actually being able to afford your monthly payment. So we're going to talk over a couple different facets of it. First things first, this is where I massively agree with Dave Ramsey on it. Build an emergency fund. Now, an emergency fund should be an account that you have separated and separate out for emergencies only. Something goes crazy with your car, you don't have to put it on a credit card, you use your emergency fund. Now, where I disagree with Dave Ramsey on this one is he always says $1,000 will get you started. I personally don't recommend having anything less than 3 to 6 months worth of reserves in there at any given time. Now, I know he says that's what's supposed to be your savings account, but in my opinion, a savings account should be something that's there that you never touch. An emergency fund should be something if you lose your job, if you have some major issues, if you have medical payments you need to make happen, have that emergency fund for emergencies. And $1,000 does not get you many places in 2024. Now, the second part about budgeting is saving for a down payment. Now, there's a couple different strategies. My personal favorite is figure out what the home you want actually costs you per month. So let's say you're paying $1,500 a month in rent right now. And the home you want, maybe let's say is $400,000, and that's going to be a $3,000 a month mortgage with the current rates. You're currently paying 15. Total that you want on the home you want is around 3,000. So you have about $1,500 extra a month that you should be putting into saving to help you save for a down payment. Now, this does two different things. First of all, $1,500 a month into that separate savings account is going to help you save a down payment. Secondly, it's going to help you get used to what that monthly payment is going to feel like once you're actually in that new home. When you have that $300 mortgage, it won't be nearly as much of a payment shock. So take that money, take that 3,000 total, 15 for you right now and 15 extra, and put that in a separate account. Have that in your savings account or a high yield account. Right now, those are great because you can do a lot of things with them. Now, obviously you can do this at any amount. If you're currently paying $2,000 a month and the home you want is $3,600 a month, you can take that. Now, figure out what that's going to be, and you can actually do that linked above. I have a Zillow calculator on how to use the Zillow calculator to figure out your monthly payments. Go use that. It'll give you a basic idea. Obviously, it's not going to be exact, but that'll get you started on what the house payment could look like if you buy the house you actually want. Now, lastly, when we're talking budgeting, we're going to talk types of budget, because yes, obviously saving for a down payment and having an emergency fund are some great things. But if you don't know how to save money in the first place, you're going to have some issues getting there. Now, the multiple different types of budgets. First is what's called an incremental budget. Now, this involves tracking what you did the month before and making incremental changes to that budget each month to try to make sure you're filling in the needs. Sometimes you have to budget for things like if you buy a new phone and your phone bills goes up $20 or $30 a month, it's good to have incremental changes to understand where those are coming from. Second strategy for budgeting is what's called zero-based budgeting. Now, this is a lot like what Dave Ramsey pushes, is having a budget for every single dollar you make. So nothing goes unspent. Now, by spent, some of that means in savings, some of it's for emergency, some of it's paying off debt, some of it's for bills. Having every dollar has a location it's supposed to be used for that month. Now, this gets a little tricky depending on the type of income you have. If you're a salary, this is super easy. You know exactly what's coming in. If you're hourly and your hours change, this could be a little more difficult. Or if you're like a realtor or a loan officer and your commission or 1099, your monthly income is going to change. So that's why it's such a big benefit having that emergency fund and knowing where that's coming from. Lastly is what's called flexible budgeting. Now, this type of budgeting allows for adjustments to be made as circumstances change. It is a lot more flexible. Now, no matter what kind of budgeting you're doing, whether it's dynamic budgeting, which is more of what I do for the salary type that I'm on or the income that I have, versus something that's more zero-based, that's going to be better for people that either work a salary or an hourly job that know their hours. Regardless, most banks have a budgeting app built in to the app you use for the bank. I know with different credit unions, with different major banks, Chase Bank has it. A lot of major banks have those budgeting apps built in. If you don't have one built in, there's a lot of third-party apps that you can go download. I know Mint was a great one we used for a long time. Credit Karma has one. If you're a Dave Ramsey fan, he has the app called Every Dollar, where you actually budget out every dollar and where it goes. There's also things like Rocket Money that can help you figure out what subscriptions and things you're paying for that you don't need to be. So getting a budgeting app and really getting yourself on track to not only save that emergency fund, help save that down payment, but also just to budget and know where your money's going in general is going to be some huge steps to be financially ready in 2024 to actually buy that home. The next thing we're going to jump in today is credit score. Now, obviously, credit is a huge factor when you're looking at buying a home, and for multiple facets and multiple reasons. Much like budgeting and understanding the clarity, having clarity on your credit score is huge, because then you know exactly what you need to do to improve it and make it better. Now, having a better credit score is going to help in one main area, which is going to be interest rate. Now, depending on if you're FHA or conventional, that interest rate will change depending on your credit score. So knowing and understanding what goes into your credit score and how to improve that can only help you in the long run. So a couple basic credit tips that you should understand going into this are: number one, make your payments on time. You can have a lot of debt and you can have a lot of credit card debt, and you can even be maxing out a lot of your cards or getting close to it. As long as you're making your payments on time and not missing anything, they're not going to necessarily show up as derogatory unless you're above your usable credit amount. So number one, most important thing with credit is make every single one of your payments on time. Number two, avoid new credit inquiries. Don't just go applying for credit cards because you get something in the mail telling you you're going to be able to use all these points. Don't go buy new cars. Don't do things. Each one of those will massively affect your credit score depending on if the credit is pulled as a hard pull or a hard inquiry versus a soft. And three, try to keep your credit card balances low. Now, according to all the research I've done, around 30% is about the max you want to be using any of your credit cards. So the total limit. So if you have a $10,000 limit on a credit card, you want to be using less than $3,000 on that credit card, no matter what. Now, where a lot of people get confused is I do have clients that use out their credit cards every month. They max it out and they pay it off. This doesn't necessarily help you depending when that credit card actually reports to the credit bureaus and when you're paying it off. Just because you're paying it off every month doesn't mean it's reported as paid off every month. Most credit bureaus only get reports once every 30 days from our credit card companies. So even if you're paying it off, if you pay it off on the 25th, but it reported on the 24th, then it's actually showing that you're utilizing the max amount of credit on that credit card for that month period, which is actually going to bring down your credit. So in general, keeping that lower utilization of your credit is going to be more beneficial to you in the long run with your credit. Now, the last point I have today is understanding mortgage options. Obviously, research will go great lengths in understanding what you have as available to you. Now, there are thousands of programs out there, whether it's down payment assistance or different actual loan programs, conventional versus non-QM versus FHA. So doing some research on your own is super beneficial. But to be honest, this final point, I'm not telling you to go research your mortgage options, and I'm not going to lay them all out here because that just doesn't make sense. There's too many options and too many specifics for each of those options. And if you don't know your actual credit and your actual income, you may be doing a bunch of wasted research on something that doesn't actually make any sense. So what I recommend is going out and getting pre-approved. Now, let me tell you a story real quick. Last year, I had a client that I reached out to through social media on Instagram to try to get them pre-approved. They refused. They said they didn't want to. Their goal was to wait and buy a home in 2025 to 2026. Now, about every 1 to 3 months, I would reach out and just say, hey, just wanted to check in, following up. I'd love to help you set up a plan on how to be ready to buy when it's time. And they kept feeling like they were pushing me out and saying, well, we're not going to be ready until 2025 or 2026. So we don't want to waste your time or ours right now. Now, as a loan officer, I appreciate that they don't want to waste my time. But as a loan officer that got into this business and specifies with first-time buyers, because I wish someone would have sat down with me to do the same thing, I kept pushing. Now, what ended up happening was in October of last year, they reached out to me and said, hey, our landlord just gave us 60 days to get out of here. Do you think we could possibly qualify and buy a home in that time? Now, this was a super cool story because not only was that one of the cases where they did qualify and they were able to get into the home before the end of that last year, but also we were able to use down payment assistance. And these buyers only came in with about $4,000 out of pocket. So having a mortgage advisor and a loan officer actually working for you can do so much more because now they understand the programs you may qualify for. And they know how to actually see if you qualify and how to get ready. And to clarify, when you work with a loan officer, we're not just telling you what programs you may qualify for. We're also going to go over credit with you. We're also going to talk about budgeting. We're also going to talk about how much you need for a down payment. We're also going to go over what your monthly payment could look like on the house you actually want. So whether you're ready or not, it's worth it to talk to a lender and figure out a plan. Now, not all lenders are going to do a 2-year plan with you. I personally will. I'm going to set up a budget and help you figure out what you need to do to get ready. So the key takeaway of all this today is getting financially ready to buy a home in 2024 may not look how you think it does. While a lot of people know they need to save money and they need to budget a little bit better, you need to actually take the steps and be disciplined to do so. Because hope to buy a home, the hope that you want to buy a home is not a strategy. But figuring out a budget, getting a plan ready, having those savings ready to go, understanding your credit, and talking to a lender is a strategy. That is going to help you know exactly what you need to do to be able to buy when you're ready. So just remember, the sooner you start, the better prepared you're going to be when it does come time. Now, thanks for watching today. If you found this video helpful, please let me know down in the comments. I'd love to see what I missed. If you think there's anything that I didn't include here, or if there's any way you budget, let me know down in the comments because I'd love to go over that a little bit more in depth. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe or feel free to reach out if you have any questions. I'm not here to pull your credit or do anything you're not ready for, but I love to have a conversation with you. If you're debating on starting in the next year or two, this could be a great time to reach out and figure out exactly what you need to do. I'll see you next time.